I'm Susan Page, and it's my honor to be here to have a conversation with Speaker Pelosi and to hear that wonderful introduction by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Madam Speaker, welcome and congratulations on receiving this wonderful award.
It is overwhelming to receive it, introduced by the Dalai Lama under the auspices of NDI, accompanying a tribute to John Lewis, with so many friends who are sponsoring the leadership of Ambassador Mitchell, but also the greatness of Madeleine Albright, my dear friend, and an intellectual resource to us in so many ways, and especially at a time when we are looking to a new presidency and president and vice president who are committed to the ideals of NDI and multilateralism and respect for human rights. So I'm overwhelmed. And again, to be in the company of the president of Taiwan, President Tsai, that was lovely as well. So I'm totally overwhelmed by it all. And thank you, Susan, for taking the time to be part of this.
We've been hearing about John Lewis, your good friend. We mourn his passing this year. I know that you were close to him for many years, and I believe that he reached out to wanted to meet with you during his final days. Could you tell us something about that?
John Lewis and I were in the same class. We served for over 3 decades in the Congress together. It was like we spoke shorthand to each other. I felt very honored. I brought him this pin. I wore it today because Madeleine always says, read my pin. So I'm asking you to read my pin. And I brought him this pin. And this pin says, one country, one destiny. And that's what John Lewis was about. These were the words that were embroidered into Abraham Lincoln's coat that he had on the night at Ford's Theater. He probably wore the coat every day, but nonetheless, that coat that night. So the connection between John Lewis and Abraham Lincoln, and then shortly we would have John Lewis lying in state in the Capitol on the same catafalque that was built for the coffin of Abraham Lincoln, that old connection. It just seemed so appropriate because John Lewis, every single day of his service in the Congress, it was always fresh. It was always new. It was always inspiring, whether it was a sit-in on the floor about guns, just this respect for the dignity and worth of every person in every manifestation of trouble, good trouble that we could get in together. I was with him in Selma, as Rob mentioned about the Selma visits earlier. I know that because when he was lying outside the Capitol for people to come by and pay their respects, because of coronavirus, they couldn't come in. That night, the night that he was going to leave the Capitol, there was a double rainbow over the Capitol. And we thought that was John saying, you waved goodbye to me with the flags over the Capitol the night I died. And I'm saying, I'm home in heaven. He was homesick for heaven there at the end. So home in heaven, this beautiful, beautiful man. And to hear the president of Taiwan, President Tsai, talk about him in that way and the inspiration he has been globally is something that it just makes you cry. It's just so remarkable. This saintly man in our midst, John Lewis.
We saw tributes to these remarkable women leaders from around the world. And I know that you often counsel American female politicians who are rising in power. I wonder if you speak to, I'm sure some of these foreign leaders also come to you for advice. And I wonder what advice you give them for women leaders who are breaking through into roles that women have not held before.
Well, we benefit from each other. I'm constantly inspired by the courage and the inspiration that they provide the rest of us, because for some of us, it takes no courage. For them, it does and can be life-threatening. But I said earlier in conversation with Madeleine that if I ruled the world, the one thing people say to me, what one thing would you do? And the one thing I would do would to just have a complete focus on the education of women and girls. I think that's the most important transformative initiative we can take to make life better for everyone and throughout our planet. When you see the courage of these women in Belarus, in Niger, in Colombia, all over the world, it's so inspiring. And again, the volume of it all, so many women speaking out, it cannot be ignored. But I always say to women and girls, know your power, know what you bring to the table. It's unique. There's nobody like you. And it's not a zero-sum game. One woman's success does not come at the expense of another. So let's help each other rise up, whether, again, especially in these countries where that's necessary.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Madam Speaker. Dearest Nancy, what an incredible discussion and a great reminder of what we at NDI mean when we talk about changing the face of politics. Anyone who's familiar with Congress knows that the institution is not entirely free of chauvinism or jealous egos. To reach a position of leadership, you have to understand how to make people do what you want, but more important, you have to persuade them to want what you want. This is the true test of a leader. And it is a test that Speaker Nancy Pelosi has passed with the kind of grades that I wished I had received, but never did in whatever class I had. Speaker Pelosi has proven herself over and over again as someone who knows how to set priorities, assemble coalitions, mobilize support, and get results that lift the lives of people both at home and overseas. She's not only an advocate of democracy, but also an inspiring example of how to practice democracy. She's tough, smart, caring, and a loyal friend of NDI. And it is one of the most welcome duties that I have had to present her with NDI's 2020 Democracy Award. This is our highest honor, which recognizes the leadership of individuals and organizations from the United States and abroad that have demonstrated a deep and abiding commitment to democracy and human rights. Speaker Pelosi certainly is such a leader, and so we feel very fortunate for this opportunity to recognize her commitment to democracy in this country and around the world. So Speaker Pelosi, congratulations and thank you so much.
Madeleine Albright, Hillary Clinton, we've had such great leaders in this way to give women the confidence to do just that. So I thank Madeleine, I thank NDI for this wonderful award. You must see it, which I'm proud to display in the Speaker's office in the Capitol. Come visit and see it. Thank you.